And if I told you once, I ain't gonna tell you twice. Salute all my real ones. I was about to do the gritty, but I don't know how to do the gritty, so I'm gonna keep it gritty. Yeah, look, bro. What happens if you remove PC component? What happens if you remove PC components from a running computer? It's gonna stop working. Pretty much. You can't, I mean, maybe if you have like multiple RAM sticks, but isn't it gonna cause it to blue screen? You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, I'm not, and do not try this at home, but I remember like 3 laptops ago, like my laptop was acting up and I went to go take a shower, and then like I clogged, like I put the little clogger thing, I don't know what that's called, that you put in the drain so the tub could fill up, and I threw the computer into the laptop. I threw the computer into the laptop. I threw the laptop into the bathtub while it was still on, and like sparks started flying. Yeah, I broke it. It broke. It was a dumb idea. It was. Please don't try that at home. I was just like button, subscribe button, notification bell, press those. Let's go.
What happens if you remove each part of a computer while that computer is running? Hey everyone, my name's Mr. Yeaster, and in this video, let's find out. Starting with the RAM, let's see what happens when we unclip 1 stick of RAM. We see that immediately the screen gets all wonky. This weird pattern starts happening, and if we completely remove that stick, that pattern becomes more intense. Even at this point, the computer itself is actually not responsive. Using a mouse or a keyboard doesn't actually change the display at all. Now let's see what happens if we remove the second stick of RAM. We can see the pattern continues until it becomes overwhelmingly intense and takes over the entire screen.
I don't know why, like, this is so, like, y'all see my face right now, I'm just like, bruh, like, why would you do this? But then it's like, that's the point of the video, so you're supposed to do this, doofus. But yeah, I think with the first component removed, you quickly learn, don't remove parts out of your computer unless it's the goddamn USB drive or the mouse. Like, just don't.
While this is pretty cool to look at, please don't try this at home. Everything I do in this video can be damaging to your components, so it's not worth the risk. Now at this point, you might be asking, what happens if I just replug the sticks of RAM back into the running motherboard?
Nah, it's over.
Will it just fix everything?
Nope.
Well, let's find out.
You have to restart.
With 1 stick returned back to the motherboard, as you can see, nothing really changes. The color on the pattern flickers a little differently, but other than that, no immediate fixes. Maybe there's a Hail Mary save if we put in a second stick of RAM while the computer is still running. But as we see, when we return both of the sticks of RAM in at this point, the pattern is still taking over the entire screen, and the mouse and the keyboard still completely unresponsive.
Right, so you have to restart.
So this is what happens if you take out your RAM and even try to put it back in while it's running. So now that the RAM is reinstalled in this computer, how can we get it back to running as normal? So we actually have to do a full system reset. So there I am powering down the system, turning it back on. And upon a restart, we do see that the computer just comes back to life as normal. Nice. All right, up next, let's see what happens if you take out the CPU while the PC is running.
Oh, it's over.
You'll need to see this again, but please don't try any of this at home. I'm using this with a lot of my older parts, so if they end up breaking,
no big deal. I have a reason to believe, you know what I'm saying? And I'm working with inside sources. Don't ask me who those sources are, because I'm not going to tell you. I have reason to believe that if you turn on your computer and remove the CPU and remove the RAM and throw it into a microwave, and you spin yourself around 3 times and you turn the microwave on, a portal will open up against the wall of your kitchen, and you'll be able to jump into an alternate dimension where it rains dollar bills, and it's not a strip club.
So to remove the CPU, the first thing we need to do is lift up the latch on the socket, since this is an AMD board. And as soon as we do that, we see the display cuts off while the CPU fan continues to spin. Now I've made sure the CPU is not super hot, and I just lift it up with my fingers. And as you can see, some of the system's still running, like the CPU fan, but no display.
Right.
So if we put it back, will this automatically fix it?
Nope.
Latching it back into place doesn't seem to change anything. So let's see what happens if we just completely restart the system at this point.
And where's your thermal
Let's grab that
paste?
CPU fan, pop it back down to make sure it stays nice and cool. And let's shut it off, turn it back on. After a few moments, we see that the computer starts to spin to life again.
Yeah.
However, when Windows begins to load, we do see that it runs into some issues. The CPU actually needs to do some recovery work at this point, and so we're presented with this blue screen. And in my experience, I was able just to restart my computer again, and all of this cleaned itself up.
Right.
So as you can see here, upon the second reboot, you see that Windows is beginning to load as normal, and eventually we are presented with the Windows login. Whew, that was close.
Not really.
Up next, let's see what happens if you remove a GPU while the system's running.
Wait.
And to do that, let's
So I'm just checking to
add a
see.
GPU to the system, because prior to this, we were just using the integrated graphics that came in the CPU.
I think if you have, I'm just jumping on a whim here, going out on a limb. If you have the display connected to the integrated graphics and not the graphics card, then it should just go back to normal, I guess. It should just switch
So for
over.
here, I have a AMD RX 560, and let's transfer over the DVI cable and power this guy on. If you're enjoying the video, please feel free to like and subscribe. You can also follow me on TikTok, which I'll leave in the description. The system is up and running with the GPU installed. Let's see what happens if we take it out while it's still running.
Well, obviously.
As we unlatch the GPU, as you might expect, the display immediately cuts off.
But now,
However, interestingly, the GPU fan actually ramps up and stays alive.
right. But now,
What do you think
plug it to the
happens if we now
integrated.
return this GPU back into the motherboard?
Oh,
Do you think it'll just fix itself and go back to normal?
yes.
Well, let's find out. If we return this to the still running system, we see that now is actually when the GPU fans decide to slow down and completely stop.
So I
Interesting.
guess I was wrong.
However, the system does not just go back to normal.
So plug
Like
it
most
to
of the
the
components here,
integrated.
returning them back to the computer requires a full system reset to go back to normal. And as you can see, if we turn off the system, power it back on, and
It'll
boot
work.
it back up, the GPU does spin back to life, and eventually we can get back into Windows as normal. And just to make sure that the system is currently recognizing the
But the real question is, will the computer work inside of a bucket of peanut butter? That's what we really want to know, right? Put a like in the comment section if you agree.
this graphics card as the same graphics card. If we load up Task Manager and look at the running components, we are able to see that it recognizes it as the RX 560, as expected. Last but certainly not least, let's see what happens if you remove the main storage device from a PC while it's running.
Nah.
In this case, we'll be removing this SATA SSD, which is currently where Windows is installed.
Oh yeah, it's over. Now, if he would have said, I have two SSDs, one has the operating system and the other one just has all the storage, it'd have been fine. But yeah, this is about to be over.
There's two cables we need to unplug,
Boom.
the SATA and the SATA power.
Bye-bye.
You can see immediately the wallpaper on the background actually goes completely
And
black.
with the safe mode,
However, other than that, the system continues to appear to look like it's running as normal. We can actually still move the mouse around and use the keyboard. However, it seems to be lagging a little bit until the point where now everything is black besides the Task Manager, which also is reading disk 0 when the GPU is up. So safe to say the system's acting funky.
right.
However, we run into a blue screen of death, and the computer automatically tries to restart. However, instead of going back to Windows, because no Windows device is connected, we see that the computer automatically launches us into the motherboard's BIOS. From here, even if we try to reinstall the SATA SSD back into the system, we see that it's not fully recognized until we do a full system reset.
Right, because it has to be booted.
Upon a full system reset, as you can see here, it actually does load back into Windows completely as normal. There wasn't any hiccups on my end, but I have done this a few times in the past where it did require me to completely repair Windows. So again, please don't try this at home, but if you do, be very careful. Well, that's all I got for you.
Well, okay, so operation, make sure that you put peanut butter and mayonnaise and tartar sauce all over your new PC is in effect. And you know what I'm saying? That's how you get to the work. Please don't try this at home. I'm just being me because I'm a doofus. But yeah, man, that's the entire video. Let me know what y'all thought about it in the comment section. My name is Rain. Catch you on the flip side. RCP salutes.